Skill-based boss fights, or SBBF, and its universe have been around for a couple of years, having a decently expansive world with many characters. However, rewrites, retcons, and obscure details have kept a lot of the lore unknown to those who do not actively search for it both in and out of the game. Throughout all of SBBF's existence, there has never been a place that compiles all the lore and details for the game. As someone who has been playing for a long time, and who is interested in the lore, I decided to try and make a video chronicling this game's world and story. This video will mostly attempt to cover as much as possible, but some bosses have literally no lore to them, so if some bosses are skipped over, that is most likely why. This video will also likely contain a lot of theories or speculation, due to SBBF not usually being obvious with its lore, so take everything said here with a grain of salt. Without further ado, I present to you the mostly complete lore and story of skill-based boss fights. The lobby area of the game, or as I will be referring to it as, Limbo, consists of the arena, boss teleporters, and the shops. Limbo seems to be a kind of trans-dimensional battle arena that can send anyone or anything to fight the player inside it. There's no real evidence for this, but I find it likely that the player is in some way part of Limbo or trapped in Limbo, considering that there is no known place a player could have come from, and they get brought back to Limbo upon death. Limbo exists somewhere outside of time, judging by the fact that the player can repeat fights as many times as they want. However, these fights still seem to have an impact outside of Limbo. Igknight and Lord Vetus are two examples of this, both of them being bosses that the player kills in Limbo, whose deaths affect the story and other characters. Limbo could also be the force that allows you to manifest weapons after defeating bosses, and also how the player for some reason appears to be extremely strong with any weaponry they obtain. This is just complete speculation though. Despite existing outside of time, Limbo is still a physical place existing within the SBBF main universe, as the player is able to sail from Limbo to the Lightning Isle. The player seems to gain some sort of power from Limbo, but they are not the only presence that resides there. Limbo is also shared with the player's mentor or trainer, Link. Link serves as the tutorial boss for SBBF and is the easiest boss in the game. He uses a linked sword in battle and has some power over sun or fire, being able to summon sunballs to attack you and covering the arena in fire during his second phase. Despite being the easiest boss, he is only holding back to train you. His actual power is around the level of an artifact wielding character that will come up again much later, Void Star. Link either lives in or is an aspect of Limbo akin to the player, and there's not much evidence for one over the other. The player does gain infinite lives while fighting Linked, so that may be linked as a part of Limbo granting the player more lives, or the tutorial area Linked fights you in is simply also in Limbo. As to why you only get 5 lives while fighting other bosses, my best guess is that Limbo is limited in its power to both summon people to fight and grant multiple lives. Some bosses do seem to be able to take multiple lives at once with Life Doom, Life Bleed, and Life Venom, which seem to loosen the player's connection with Limbo in some way. Although I find theorizing about this interesting, it's about time we move on to the main game. Most of the bosses don't have a set timeline for when they occur, so I will mainly go through these less important fights based on difficulty before getting to the more important ones. Starting off, Chaos King is the second boss in SBBF and is rated at 2 difficulty points. He originates from the mainland of Universe Monarch in the game Great Monarchs RPG. Chaos King announces his attacks before using some sort of chaos magic to attack. He serves Great Monarch Eribas, a lord who originates from an unknown kingdom. Chaos King corresponds to the first element on Eribas' crown, being the Chaos Gem. The importance of this will be saved for when I talk about Eribas himself. Upon death, Chaos King explodes in a final attempt to destroy you. If you die from this explosion, the exact damage number you take is 518922120. Substituting the numbers for the corresponding position in the alphabet, you get Eribas, spelling out Eribas. Winning against Chaos King grants the player their first unlockable class, Disruptor, an arm attachment that fires rays of chaos energy. Igknight is the third boss in SBBF and is rated at 3 difficulty points. In battle, Igknight uses both fire magic and his sword to attack. Touching Igknight will burn the player due to his heat. His strength depends on his rage, and he gets more angry as his fight with us progresses. Igknight is a lone knight originating from Universe SBBF, who in some sort of rage burnt down his house with fire magic. Afterwards, he finds himself somewhere in Universe SBBF, most likely in the outskirts. The outskirts generally refers to any area in Universe SBBF where events occur that I do not know the precise location of. We do get to see the outskirts 2 different times. This does not really tell us anything of note. All we ever see is a cave with crystals and a field with dead trees. In the outskirts, Igknight encounters Dark Crusader, leader of a group known as the Scavengers. The Scavengers is a group of swordsmen or knights of some kind that serve an unknown purpose. The only real information known is that Dark Crusader serves as their leader. Dark Crusader offers Igknight to join the Scavengers, but Igknight refuses. Soon after Dark Crusader leaves, our fight with Igknight occurs, where we kill him in battle. Upon death, he remarks that he should have gone with Dark Crusader. The death of Igknight saddens Dark Crusader, as he sees that he could have saved him if he had gotten Igknight to come with him and join the Scavengers. Defeating Igknight awards Ember, a flame staff that shoots fireballs.
Yeah! Venomous is the 7th boss in SBBF and is rated at 8 difficulty points. Venomous uses a sword named Venom's Bite, poison magic, and a gun to fight. He is the only boss in the game that can inflict life's venom, a debuff that takes a life from the player after a very short wait. He sees his fight with the player as pointless and is frustrated when he is forced to use the full extent of his power. Venomous is part of a group that all wield weapons of great power, known as the Immortal Swords. The Immortal Swords were all seemingly transported from Universe COTD to Universe SBBF through means that will be explained later. Venomous himself seems to be on a quest to kill all of the other Immortal Swords to make themselves or some other entities realize their significance. What that significance is unknown. But it could be that Venomous sees the other Immortal Swords as being significant due to the power of the swords that he wants to take for himself. At some point in time, Dark Crusader sent an invitation for Venomous to join the Scavengers, but he denied the invitation as he saw Dark Crusader as a lackey and thought being in the Scavengers would impede his quest to kill the rest of the Immortal Swords. Defeating Venomous awaits Haze, a bayonet that can both shoot poison bolts and be swung. Sans, how the fuck did you burn the water? Oh, I don't know, bro. It just got it.
Radiance is the 8th boss in SBBF and is rated at 10 difficulty points. Radiance is an immortal manifestation of light of unknown origin who sees the player as a threat, using forms of light and their sword named Severance to strike the player down. They are also one of the only bosses able to inflict the debuff called cooldown, preventing you from using class skills. One of the only other bosses that inflict cooldown is with a light-based attack, so light and cooldown could be related in some way. Radiance sees the player as an impure being, and thinks they are attempting to steal a source of divine energy known as the Great Sword of Light. As the guardian of the Great Sword of Light, Radiance takes it upon themselves to defeat you. Although being its guardian, Radiance summons it in the middle of the arena in the second phase for some reason. When beating their second phase, Radiance realizes that the player is not worth wasting energy on and retreats. Defeating Radiance awards Radiant, a tank debuffer that swings and fires light crystals. Disastyr is the 10th boss in SBBF and is rated at 13 difficulty points. Disastyr uses darkness-based attacks and turns dead players into lost souls with a sword. Disastyr is the second immortal sword we fight after Venomous, wielding the Wicked Heart. He seems to have signed a contract with Eribas or some other lord to do something, though it's not very clear what. Disastyr is more arrogant than Venomous, being confident that he will win his fight with the player. Upon defeat, he awards Wicked, a glaive that hurts and lifesteals with its attacks. Hyperbole is the 11th boss in SBBF and is rated at 16 difficulty points. Hyperbole uses a variety of astral, light, and darkness-based attacks to kill the player. Going into phase 1, Hyperbole calls the player foolish for trying to fight him, and says that you are not worthy of his introduction. Hyperbole seems to be some kind of ancient mage that was sealed by some force. Before being sealed, he instead had the name of Hyperius. He may have also been a teacher based on information that will come up later. It might seem obvious that he is some sort of counterpart to Radiance, as Hyperbole is shrouded in darkness like Radiance is shrouded in light, but his dark veil seems to instead be the seal that was placed on him. It isn't known what his seal actually does to him, but it probably limits his power in some way. In phase 1, he only uses darkness-based attacks, but in phase 2 he switches up and starts to use astral and light. Judging by his phase 2 encyclopedia entry, he seems to be able to change his seal or veil in some way, yet clearly not enough to break it, as he presumably would have already done that if he could. In phase 3, he berates the player, and says they have no idea what it's like to be sealed away and judged for every action. This might imply a Nightmare from Cheeseburger Crusade situation, where Hyperbole was just a normalish being, but after being sealed, people started to see him as an evil and malevolent force. Hyperbole was also not human, as he says in phase 2. In phase 3, Hyperbole uses both his attacks from phase 1 and phase 2 and his much longer move strings. Defeating Hyperbole awards you Hyperion, a sphere or stand that the player commands. Cazar is the 12th boss in SBBF and is rated at 17 difficulty points. Cazar uses his sword, control over time, and shotguns to attack. Shotguns being exploding orbs that Cazar throws out. Cazar is a dimensional traveler that comes from the universe Crusader, who is served as a warrior under his king, Crusader. Cazar travels to different universes to kill who he sees as evil, thinking of himself as the hero of Crusader. The player also seems to have killed his king, Crusader, at some point in time, and Cazar wishes to avenge his king by slaying you in battle. It is presumed that Cazar is just one knight from Crusader out of many, but Cazar is the only one we see. After defeating Cazar in battle, he retreats back to Crusader. However, this may not be the last we see of him. Winning against Cazar awards Noble, a rapier that can parry attacks. Dark Crusader is the 14th boss in SBBF and is rated at 30 difficulty points. Dark Crusader is a boss originating from Universe SBBF that has been observing all the players' fights up to his own, having noticed the players' victories against Chaos King, Venomous, Radiance, Cazar, Hyperbole, and Igknight. He's been desiring to fight the player as he wants to test their strength for himself, seeing how powerful they are with the foes they have defeated. He has some power over darkness, and is able to create darkness attacks that inflict life doom. This suggests some kind of relation between darkness and life doom, as the two bosses able to inflict it, Hyperbole and Dark Crusader, are both related to darkness. Moving on to the Symptober, perhaps it was some kind of Crusader group attempting to spread a message, judging by the presence of knights in the group and Dark Crusader's name. However, this is just speculation as to the group's greater purpose. After Dark Crusader gets low enough, he unleashes his final attack before yielding to the player and letting himself be defeated out of honor. We do not know the exact member count of the Symptober, but it is clear Dark Crusader was looking to recruit new members, having asked Igknight to join and sending an invitation to Carnellio and Venomous. Defeating Dark Crusader awards a Gladiator, a tank class with a spear and shield. Carnellio is the 15th boss in SBBF and is rated at 40 difficulty points. To fight, Carnellio combines his sword named Malevolency with black and draconic magic that he channels through sigils. He's the only boss in the game that can imbue his attacks with life bleed, causing his attacks to overkill and take multiple lives. Carnellio comes from Universe COTD and is a warrior from an ancient draconic lineage of sorcerers. He is used to fight shrouded in darkness and developed a great rage during his childhood. Carnellio may have traveled on his own from Universe COTD to Universe SBBF to gain more power and to do something with a location known as the Universal Zenith, the physical location of such being some kind of platforms surrounded by an ocean of water. The nature of the Universal Zenith is not very known, but Carnellio tells the player to either confront it or die upon his defeat. He also seems to have a desire to bring an object of great power known as the Apex Stone to this location for an unknown reason. Defeating Carnellio awards Draconic, a scythe with the most usable skills in the game.
Time and again, I pick farewell! Just stop!
Nargalis is the 16th boss in SBBF and is rated at 50 difficulty points. Nargalis has a phase structure different from every other boss in the game. They get stronger until reaching the climax in phase 4 and then slightly cool down for the final 5th phase. They have a wide variety of attacks, including their signature move, Star Blazing, summoning an astral spear that summons black hole-like orbs before it implodes on itself once Nargalis throws it at the player. Nargalis is an angel of death coming from the universe Echoes of Armororia. They are most likely a sort of angel from hell based on their angel of death status, along with them threatening the player by saying to face hell and even darker. They are part of a series called All Shadows War. Since all the game in that series are now unrated, I cannot provide much backstory for Nargalis. Nargalis is, however, an example of a character being summoned to Limbo through another universe entirely. Defeating Nargalis awards Vortex, a bow that can shoot debuffing arrows. Lord Vetus is a knight that serves under Dark Crusader and the Symptober. To attack, uses his sword, encapsulations of energy, and crystals. Despite his title, there is no evidence Lord Vetus is actually a lord of any kind. He may have been so in the past, but he's currently just a knight. Defeating Lord Vetus in battle grants us dual-wielding greatswords known as The Almighty is a godlike being with unknown motivations and unknown goals. The only known information about him takes shape in only his actions. Bringing Vetus to him, the Almighty bestows a gift onto Vetus. Not a physical gift, but instead one of mind and spirit. He gives Vetus the gift of incredible willpower, the power to hold on and come back stronger after death. With this, Lord Vetus is assigned to the position of the second Sanctuary Chair. Sanctuary Chairs are a set of 7 powerful beings that perform the will of the Almighty, whatever that may be. Vetus would eventually be demoted to the 3rd chair due to his naivety, but for now, the Almighty sends Vetus back down from the Aether. It would be some time before Vetus realized the gift the Almighty had given him, but with Vetus' death to the player, it seems like that time is quickly approaching. Unlocking his willpower, Vetus finally gains his wings of the Sanctuary and continues to fight. He unlocks the ability to fly due to his wings and can now manifest a hyper laser. Upon reaching his 3rd phase, Vetus manifests his willpower into intelligence and starts predicting with his attacks. He also unlocks one of the most infamous moves in all of SBBF, Air Snipe. Reaching the end of Phase 3, Vetus is on his dying breath once more, but as before, he holds on and decides that you are worthy to be the first-hand witness to his true power. Now in his 4th phase, Vetus unlocks the power of Elemental Sigils, and can use them to cover the entire arena in huge attacks. These Elemental Sigils are Davidia, representing crystals and darkness, Asuna, being fire and rage, Graviga, being gravity and speed, and Libra, being wind and light. Going into Phase 5, he now uses the additional sigils of Vestidas and Astrum. Vestidas is a sigil of ground and slowness, and Astrum is a sigil of space and poison. In his final phase, Vetus realizes all of his willpower into the elemental sigil of Ultima, the sigil representing all the elements. Combining his energy with Ultima, Vetus can manifest a titanic orb that he throws to the center of the arena, exploding almost everything. When he reaches critical health, he will unleash one final Ultima orb before yielding to the player, amazed by the strength he has unlocked and the power and skill shown by the player. As final reward for allowing Vetus to reach his apex, he uses all of his willpower to manifest an object of incredible power for the player somewhere in the world, knowing that the player will someday obtain it when they become powerful enough to do so. This object is the Apex Stone, a blue stone that increases the power of anyone with it by 10-fold. This stone holds the same power that Vetus did, the same power that took him from 6 difficulty points in his first phase to 60 by the end. The place that Lord Vetus manifests the Apex Stone is a place known only as the Lightning Isle. The Lightning Isle is a grass platform in a rocky ocean area below the Aether Crystal, which is being suspended midair by giant chains. The Aether Crystal seems to be the source of an Aetherborn storm that strikes lightning down onto the Lightning Isle, giving the isle its name. Triumphing over Lord Vetus grants Sentry, 2 dual-wielding great swords that can swap to a hyper laser, both weapon types having completely different movesets. One month after Lord Vetus' defeat, 4 characters meet to talk about the Apex Stone and its power. Those characters being Dark Crusader, Carnellio, Eribas, and Fengari. Before we talk about the contents of this meeting, let's talk more about who Eribas is, and also arguably who the most important character in the SBBF Omniverse is, Fengari. Eribas originates from Universe Monarch, and served as a lord for his home kingdom. Eventually, Eribas traveled from his kingdom to the mainland of Universe Monarch, which is where the events of the game Great Monarchs RPG takes place. The player character goes through the mainland and defeats all of Eribas' servants: Chaos King, Stealth King, Monarch of Darkness, Bitterness King, Biohazard King, Monarch of Despair, Anubis, and Crimson Wrath. Eventually, the player reaches Eribas' castle and destroys the decoy Great Monarch that Eribas set up for the player. This sends the player to the final fight of the game, Great Monarch Eribas. Before the fight, Eribas gives a long monologue to the player that tells them his story. He says that he traveled from his home to the mainland, and that before himself, all the mainland creatures were without any obligations or goals. Eribas decided to become a ruler over this land, saying that he gave the land a purpose, and that he gave the creatures something to focus and revolve their whole life around. Eribas accuses the player of trying to take away this order and make it meaningless again, before engaging in battle. Eribas fights using all the gems on his crown to empower and alter his own attacks. Every gem represents one of his servants and their respective element. When using his first gem, the Chaos Gem, Eribas describes the element of Chaos as coming first, before every other element. Eribas enjoys the concept of Chaos, and says that the player originates from a greater chaos than the one he knows. He describes the player as being powered by an element known as NULL, saying it's how the player levels up. Along with the gems representing his servants, Eribas has a final gem that represents himself, where he uses his ultimate known as Golden Monarch Bringer. Upon defeat, Eribas does not succumb, and charges up a final Golden Monarch Bringer before Fengari appears and instantly defeats Eribas, trapping him into some sort of portal. Fengari talks down to Eribas, saying that he yearned for the power of chaos, and calling him stubborn for forgetting the nature of NULL. He then tells someone named NULL that they will take Eribas and his servants to help them alongside Carnellio. Fengari absorbs the entirety of Universe Monarch before disappearing. Fengari originates from Universe NULL, a mysterious universe with very little details known about it. He seems to serve a being known as NULL, and is following NULL's orders on a mission to do something with the Apex Stone. Fengari is traveling and absorbing universes, taking them to Universe SBBF if they are useful for NULL's purpose, as that is where the Apex Stone lies. This is how Eribas and Chaos Kane arrived in Universe SBBF, and is also maybe how Carnellio and the Immortal Swords arrived as well. For clarification, NULL the entity, NULL the element, and Universe NULL are all different but connected things. Out of the three, NULL the element is the most unknown. It powers the player from Universe Monarch to level up. That is all we really know about it. Universe NULL, on the other hand, is actually its own game, and going into it contains some very interesting things. Universe NULL appears to be a platform suspended above a black void. From here, you can see the moon mostly shrouded in a thick darkness, being much closer to the platform compared to the moon in Limbo. Touching a white orb in Universe NULL summons a weird entity that slides toward you and flings you away when touched. This could be who NULL is, but I doubt it. This is probably some other less powerful entity or creation of NULL. Waiting long enough in Universe NULL, some interesting things can happen. First of all, a message can appear as text at the bottom of the screen. The moon, make yourself known. Their doom, elevate your throne. Redeem the reward of your patience. Destroy the obstacle the mage is. There are some different possibilities for what this can mean, but I find one of them most likely, a prophecy. The first line refers to Fengari, as Fengari is moon in Greek, and means revealing himself to either NULL or the Omniverse. Their doom, elevate your throne, probably refers to the absorption of Universe Monarch, with the throne being Eribas and their doom being the absorption of their universe and subjects. Redeem the reward of your patience refers to someone collecting the Apex Stone as their reward for some kind of patience. Destroy the obstacle to mages means the SPBF player killing Carnellio to get the Apex Stone back from him at the Universal Zenith. I'm not exactly sure how to get these next messages to occur, but NULL can speak to you and call you a nuisance in Greek before he tells Fengari to kill you, which then kicks you from the game. Going back to the meeting, we know that Eribas and Carnellio are both there under the will of Fengari. Dark Crusader is there because he was asked to come by Carnellio. Dark Crusader speaks first, and asks Carnellio if he changed his mind on his invitation to the Symptober, but Carnellio dismisses him, and says that they are here to discuss something that would be of greater use to Dark Crusader. Carnellio describes an item that holds unparalleled value across multiple universes that his ancestors have been searching for a long time. This insinuates that maybe the prophecy from Universe NULL has been known across multiple universes, and is how Carnellio's ancestors knew about an object like the Apex Stone. Carnellio then invites Fengari to show Dark Crusader, which Fengari opens a dark portal that then shows images of various powerful artifacts from 3 different universes. First is the Dark Heart, a powerful sword that is wielded by the character Voidstar from Universe COTD. It is unknown if Voidstar was transported to Universe SBBF like Carnellio and the Immortal Swords, but it can be presumed that they were. Second is Eribas' crown from Universe Monarch, described as a crown to control an entire region. Carnellio mentions that the struggles for the crown can be seen everywhere, Eribas responding by saying that his kingdom has a purpose greater than any other, and that the power held by the crown would be wasted on anyone else but him. Carnellio says to Dark Crusader that he cannot bring any of this information to the Sim to Burr, and he is bound by the magic of the chapel-like room where their meeting is taking place. Carnellio then begins to describe Lord Vetus, a naive knight who wielded the willpower to manifest the Apex Stone after his death. Finally, Fengari shows and names the Apex Stone to Dark Crusader. With the conclusion of the meeting, all 3 walk out towards the Apex Stone, and Dark Crusader is kidnapped to join Fengari's group. I will refer to this group of Eribas, Carnellio, Dark Crusader, and Fengari as Scavengers from now on. As they walk, Venomous watches the Scavengers from a distance, describing Dark Crusader as a lackey and the other 3 of catastrophic potential. After traveling and sailing for 2 days, the Scavengers arrive at the location where Lord Vetus had manifested the Apex Stone, the Lightning Isle. Carnellio seizes the opportunity and starts to run towards the stone. When reaching the stone, the 1st, 2nd, and 4th sanctuary chairs manifest themselves and pin Carnellio to the ground. When appearing, the 1st chair says a message in broken text, passed into the shape of this mimic of our true reality. Right after, the 4th chair manifests himself in front of the Apex Stone to protect it. At the same time, the player and Linked both arrive at the Lightning Isle. Linked comments on how the Apex Stone has divine but limited protection, and they might as well take it from themselves now rather than it fall into the hands of the Scavengers. The player enters the grass platform, and the 4th chair focuses its attention onto them, starting the fight against the 4th sanctuary chair, Edgexcelsis. Edgex is described as a ninja angel, and hovers above the ground with wings. Wings are a trait shared by all the sanctuary chairs, and the chairs can be assumed to be some kind of angels for the Almighty, especially due to Edgex being described as a ninja angel. The Almighty sent the remaining sanctuary chairs down to protect the Apex Stone because of some true righteousness that involves no one getting the Apex Stone no matter what. The Almighty's motives are not very clear. Edgex attacks quickly and uses a variety of attacks involving chains and his shurikens. Attempting to run through the Apex Stone will cause the 1st sanctuary chair to appear and push you back. Depleting Edgex's health, he will retreat into the Apex Stone, saying that he must recall the fervor that he once had before turning back into his original form, Edgelord. Edgelord comes from Universe COTD, wielding the Chaos Edge as their sword and dying at the end of their story. All of these sanctuary chairs seem to have died in order to ascend to the Aether and be appointed, and they have all received some kind of gift from the Almighty. Lord Vetus receiving his gift of willpower, and Edgex receiving his gift to return to his former form of Edgelord. Excluding Lord Vetus, chairs can travel between the Aether and the world below by stabbing crystals wielded by the 2nd and 1st chair, known as reality anchors, into the ground. But we will get more into those later. For now, Edgelord is here in his previous form to administer justice. And remember, the Almighty sent his regards a long time ago. It appears to be that sometime after Edgelord's appointment, he was taught some abilities by Hyperbole, referring to him by his name before he was sealed, Hyperius. Edgelord has learned to perform a lesser version of Hyperbole's Great Split, and a combination of Hyperbole's Dark Omen and Rift known as Dark Forecast. Defeating Edgelord, Carnellio regains his strength and stands back up. Fengari comments that they have no idea what power guards the Apex Stone, as he only thought it had one guardian. However, it is unknown which guardian Fengari knew about. It could be one of the sanctuary chairs or the Almighty himself. He says that this is all the time they need to survey the stone, and that they will redeem the reward of their patience when all the pieces fall together on that day. This is the same sentence as the third line of the Universe NULL prophecy, and Fengari seems to be awaiting for some date where they will obtain the Apex Stone. He comments that his power is weaker, before using some kind of item or spell called Crown Chikara to open a portal and telling the rest of the Scavengers to follow him through. This is interesting. It seems that Fengari's powers become limited when either in the presence of the Aether or the Apex Stone. Suddenly, the second chair manifests himself in front of the Apex Stone. The second chair speaks in a similar fashion to the first chair when they first manifested, this time saying to cross the seam where the realms are met, forgive me for everything I will forget, before stabbing 3 reality anchors into the ground. As mentioned earlier, reality anchors are how the sanctuary chairs travel between the Aether and Universe SBBF. Before they use reality anchors, chairs appear to be covered in some kind of warmly colored veil, and have weakened powers. The now unveiled second chair, named Atrinoss, clashes with Carnellio. Carnellio realizes that he is stronger than him, and instead insults Atrinoss. Atrinoss says that Carnellio is not his purpose here, telling Carnellio to leave while violence hasn't yet overcome his memory. Carnellio then backs off, and Atrinoss turns his attention to the player. Atrinoss fights using his blade named Atherpetra, and uses poses to channel his attacks. Like Edgex, Atrinoss seems to have also been taught by Hyperbole before he was sealed, using the moves Split and Rift that take from Hyperbole's Great Split, Dark Omen, and Rift. Atrinoss will also throw his reality anchors at the player, restraining them to the anchor if they are hit. Breaking the reality anchors turns them black, cold, and brittle. Atrinoss is temporarily stunned while picking up a broken reality anchor. Because the anchors are how Atrinoss connects the Universe SBBF, breaking them seems to slightly sever that connection, although Atrinoss can warm up the reality anchors when he retrieves them, turning them back to normal. Depleting Atrinoss' health, the first chair will manifest above him and strike Atrinoss with red lightning. This lightning removes his memories, and causes Atrinoss to enter a violent rage. He forgets his previous fighting style, and now uses a completely different moveset from before. In this state, his blade is renamed to the Butterfly Skewer, and his attacks become much more versatile. Entering his final phase, Atrinoss is able to recall his purpose. Now using a combination of his Phase 2 and Phase 4 moveset, Atrinoss enters into his true warrior form. He loses his fear of death, and now, instead, he is willing to die fighting. Defeating Atrinoss, the first chair strikes him with lightning again to restore his memories before retreating. Atrinoss then talks about his time before meeting the Almighty, a time where he was on a violent killing spree, spurred by his fear of death. Eventually, he died and ascended to the Aether, where the Almighty gifted him his reality anchors. The Almighty told Atrinoss that his anchors would eventually fail him, and from this, Atrinoss grew hopeless and afraid to run out of them. But the Almighty commanded Atrinoss to keep using them, and told him that the last time he would descend from the Aether would be to fight the player. Before he ascends back to the Aether, Atrinoss says to the player that out of a million things he could tell them, never forget there is a heaven. We have now finished all of the current main story, but that doesn't mean we are done just yet. In another universe, there still remain loose ends that have yet to be tied, and if Limbo doesn't take him to you, he will take Limbo to himself. Cazar Fallen Warrior is by far the most difficult boss in SBBF, coming in at 80 difficulty points. He only has 2 phases compared to Lord Vetus' 6, but those phases are much more difficult. After the player kills Cazar's king and forces him to shamefully retreat in battle, Cazar gains an unbearable anger towards the player. After enough time, Cazar takes the armor of his dead king and travels to Limbo himself to end the player once and for all. With his empowered weaponry, Cazar improves his control over the elements of Ruby, Topaz, and Amethyst. He is now able to summon elemental rifts and can infuse Topaz and Amethyst into his shotguns to make them extremely deadly. His slight power over time and ferocity with his sword also increases, with him now attacking extraordinarily fast. Cazar already had control over Ruby before donning Crescendus' armor. Now, with the combination of his and Crescendus' Ruby control, he's able to perfectly manifest Ruby into 2 ultimate attacks, Ruby Drill and Ruby Cataclysm.
Control, for that's all your intention.
When Cazar's health becomes dangerously low, he unleashes the full extent of his power, manifesting a ruby crown that allows him to execute a final string of attacks, known as the Aperigita. When Cazar knows he lost the fight, he becomes desperate, and uses all of his power at once to explode himself in a final attempt to kill you. Winning the fight, we gain a small fragment of the fallen warrior's power, in the form of a greatsword named Elemental. This boss can take place at any point in the timeline after Cazar, but I would assume it is sometime after the Aether bosses.